invite you to embrace this pivotal weekend in the race to be the champions of the Premier League.
You're listening to FPL Copy Talks. Arguably the best FPL podcast in Singapore.
It was never a debate.
It was always a debate.
It was always a debate.
Alright, hello and welcome back to the episode of FPL Copy Talks, where two gentlemen come together to talk about a game we love, Fantasy Premier League. I'm Anody, FPL Casual, and with me, my buddy.
And I'm Lukman, the sensible one. How is it going?
I'm doing good. I'm really refreshed, especially with this FPL Playbook series. I think it's been an interesting series of podcasts to record. What's your opinion on this one? Like I think like what I mentioned in the last episode, crafting your FPL squad. I think there's a lot of hypotheses and theories that we have, but we don't really sit down and spend time to dissect
Discuss.
it or to check it or to to verify it. And I think this playbook series actually helps. I mean, for me personally, at least it helps me, forces me to take some time to think through some of the things that I do.
Correct. It
Yeah.
definitely will improve like the thought process of your decisions. I feel like it's something to consider. Even though as I've been playing FPL for quite a while, right, I still think there's a lot to take from researching and from recording the playbook series. For sure, man. So far it's been so good, man.
So
what
if
are we
you're
covering
listening
today?
to this, so what we're covering today will be transfers, mastering the transfers. I mean, like, transfers seems to be quite an easy one. So as a casual, for me, the transfers has always been dealing with the injuries or the hits, or the injuries that I have to deal with. I've never really planned ahead or anything like that. We will discuss some things here, what to do, how to plan your transfer strategies, when to take hits, etc. So I think that's an interesting one. This is, I think, chapter 9 of our FPL playbook series, right? So if you're
Wait,
listening to this in the
9
middle,
or 8?
9.
9, you sure?
It's quite fast, yeah. It's 9.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's quite a bit of content here. I'm really looking forward to this one. But before that, if you're listening to this on Spotify, don't forget to subscribe and give us that 5-star rating. It will help us with our outreach and algorithm, and especially and we're now on YouTube as well with our video podcast. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and share there as well. I think the reach on YouTube can be a bit wider, especially in Malaysia, where we have most of our counterparts there tuning into YouTube over Spotify. So help us with our outreach over there. And if you have friends playing this game and you want them to get more involved and they don't know where to start, let them know that they can start with the FPL playbook from the FPL Copy Talk series.
And if
Anything
you're
else you
new
want to
here,
add, Norman?
if you're new here and you're not aware that we have a Telegram group chat, do join it. There's our community where we discuss, we talk, we banter in our Telegram group chat. So do join us, over there. Yeah.
Yep. So
Let's
without
move on.
further ado, this will be the chapter 9 of the FPL playbook, mastering transfers. Let's get into this.
This is the FPL Playbook, your ultimate guide to mastering Fantasy Premier League. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro, this podcast series covers everything you need to know. From building a winning team to discovering game-changing strategies, we're here to transform casual players into engaged enthusiasts. Get ready to elevate your FPL game.
Yep. So entering into the transfers, I think this is probably the first part of series where we talk about actual how do I put it, match day strategies, right? So
Yeah.
so far what we've done prior to this episode is actually talking about how to set up teams, fundamentals of FPL,
Yep.
and considerations for each position, all that. But I think from this episode onwards, we will talk a bit more about strategy, and transfers is part of that strategy, especially when you taking into all the factors. Once the game go live, like basically from match day 2 onwards, right? So this is
Yep.
where your strategy comes to play. And if you have been following FPL Copy Talks for the last year or so, I mean the last few years, you will know that we have our own resident Mr. Strategies, Lokman, the sensible one, right? So Lokman has been my go-to guide for strategy. So just a quick background. If you haven't listened to the first part of this series, you will understand that Lokman is a very how to say he's an organized person. He knows he sees and plans things ahead, and he has these strategies in place, right?
Yep.
Whether or not the execution of the strategies works well for him, what we know is that the strategies that he's presented work is decent ones. So I mean, the strategy and the execution of the strategy, right?
Yep.
So like
Correct.
execution includes choosing the right players, etc., etc. I think that is dependent from individual to individual, but strategy wise, I think there's a lot of interesting opinions from Nukman, which I think we can all learn from. And talking about strategy, I think if you listen to us on a weekly basis, we will be podding before and after each game week, right?
Yep.
We will have a strategy corner where we will discuss what's common strategies to tackle with the fixtures, etc., etc. So in the first series, we're talking about transfers. After this, we talk about chips. In the next episode, and then we talk about how to master the fixtures. Right. So I think quick one. I give quite a bit of introduction into the last last three chapters of this playbook series, which is the strategy corner. I think Lokman, can you take us through a quick recap on how transfers work in Fantasy Premier League?
So you only get one transfer for every game week.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't use your transfer, you can roll your transfer. So that's a term, meaning you roll one transfer to the next game week. So the next game week you have two transfers. However, you can't stockpile them. So you only can have a maximum of two free transfers every game week. So if you forget your team for like the 5 weeks or 10 weeks, right, you come back, you only have two free transfers.
Yeah.
So that's how it works.
So
And
basically, you
then
can carry forward. I mean, if you use the term carry forward your transfer
correct,
by 1 week,
only one.
otherwise it burns.
It burns. And
Yeah.
then yeah, so another recap is another term is taking a hit. So taking a hit means if you spend an additional transfer that you're allocated, right, you will be taking a hit, which means you'll be paying 4 points. So the hit costs you 4 points.
Yep.
So those are the two
So
main
just
terms.
a quick one as well. So that hit comes after your free transfer. So if you got two free transfer, your third transfer is a hit. And I think the thing about hit is that you need to be consciously aware that you got a hit, so that when you get your points, right, they will only be deducted at the end of the whole game week. Correct?
Yes, correct. Sometimes
Yeah.
the points you see on the main side, right, is is not included with the hit, correct?
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
you know?
it's not included in the hit. It's usually not.
Yeah.
Usually we consolidate at the end of it.
Yeah.
But
No,
we
as
will
in like
discuss it.
at the end of the game week, right, you will see they will put there 60 points.
Yeah,
I think. But then when you go to your mini leagues, right, they will calculate 56
56.
points.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
correct, correct. So
Okay,
just
okay.
be aware of that. And hits can be quite costly, lah. I mean, we will discuss in a bit. When do you
Yeah.
take hits, and when do you? I mean, Lokman is if you've been following this sport, Lokman has many promo codes. So we discuss
Okay,
about that in a bit.
one more thing. So
Yeah,
let's say you already take a hit, right? Then when you confirm the transfer, they'll say this will cost you -4. But then when let's say you want to take another hit, it will say this will cost you -4. But it means it doesn't say -8 lah, I think, if I'm not wrong. I don't know if it's still the case.
mm-mm.
So just be careful lah. The -4, the next one you take, they will show -4 too, but it adds up from the previous one lah. It doesn't mean you can take a free hit lah, for example. You know what I mean? Yeah, just something to take
Yeah.
note lah if you are not aware. Okay,
Yeah,
move
and
on.
just be a bit careful when you're doing your transfers. You can tinker, but once you confirm, it's done. You cannot
Yes,
undo it,
correct.
right? So you cannot actually I didn't want to do this, right? So just be very careful with that. So just a quick one. There are many apps out there that you can use to plan your teams ahead, your transfers ahead. So you can easily Google that, or you can join our Telegram group, and we'll share with you what some of these apps are lah,
Oh, you
right?
don't want shout out?
If you, I mean, if you're sponsored, then we do lah. But otherwise, let's
Okay,
just
okay.
let's just keep it that way. Anyway, so yeah, so the terms, there's two terms here. There's roll, a transfer, that means to to carry forward your transfer for this week and bringing on to the next week, and of course the next one is taking a hit. So just another thing to note: if you're doing a wildcard, right, you lose that free transfer. That transfer doesn't roll to the following week after your wildcard.
Okay.
Similarly for a free hit, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So just a quick point there. Right. So now when
Sorry.
do we do? Yeah.
So for example, okay, let's say you're using a free hit, right? Free hit. We will talk about chips the next episode, but
Yeah. Correct.
that's one thing to take note. If you make, for example, you make one transfer, and then you decide to free hit on the same game week, that transfer you made, right, will so called be nullified lah. So the following week, right, that one transfer you made will not, that player wouldn't be in your following week's game week, following teaming next game week. You
This is
understand
a
what I mean?
bit technical lah, but yeah. So
Yeah.
we will talk in the free hit
Yeah.
in the chips
Yeah.
in
Okay.
the
Sorry.
chips episode. Anyway, when do we take transfers? Right? When do we do transfers? I think very clearly. You have 15 players, right? So 11 starting players and 4 on the bench, a goalkeeper and 3 outfield players. So generally, like when you take a hit, when you definitely, I won't say definitely lah, it's always a decision, right? Like
Yeah.
one of the clear cut chances or reasons why you take a hit is if a player is suspended or out for long term injury. So
Yeah.
usually, if you're starting 11, someone in your starting 11, or first 11, is out in a long term injury, you probably want to fix it with a hit. You can also be reasons like they're entering into very difficult fixtures and you want to refresh your team with
Yeah.
players who have better fixtures. That's another reason why you need to do transfers. Yeah, and if generally the player is not performing and you want to replace that player for someone who's better performing, then you do the transfer. Yeah. So
Yeah.
one transfer a week, it's very scarce. Well, I mean, for 15 players, you can only transfer one every week. I think it's very little. Even two, it's not a lot, which is why long-term planning is very crucial, right?
Yeah. Correct. Agreed.
So, when you do your transfers, you are still bounded by the similar rules as we mentioned in the previous episode, right? So, still two goalkeepers, five defenders, five midfielders, three forwards, and three from the same team, and you are still capped by the budget in your team. But right? This budget, your team's budget actually changes over the season. And how does your budget change? By the value of your team, right? So basically, the prices of your assets or the players in your team, they are not static. Instead, they are dynamic. They increase in price, they decrease in price, and there's a whole algorithm on how this works. But I let Lokman take you through that.
I think as a casual, right, this is the most annoying thing about FPL. Like price
Yeah,
changes. That this
it is.
element of the game for me is frustrating. I think it's very hard to explain to casuals also. Like if you, this is just such a very troublesome part of the game that you want to understand. Like the official side, right, doesn't have any clear reasons or any, like they don't have
Correct.
what's that, a proper,
Like a
they're not
rule,
transparent.
there's
They're
no
not
clear rule.
transparent. They're not transparent about how these price changes work. It can be super random. So there are sites that these third party sites, like they do they have algorithm, like they predict the transfer changes. So these are third party, they're not official. So they basically, the algorithm works about how many transfers a player is transferred out, how many players how many transfers is made from a player out, in and out. I think these numbers are transparent in the main site, that how many players are in and out. That's how they build the algorithm. But it's super unclear. But basically every day at 9:30 a.m. Singapore time, every day. So from game week 1, the next day already, the next Sunday morning, there will be a price changes already. So yeah,
Yeah.
so
So to summarize simply, every
yeah,
day there will be some fluctuation in prices. Okay.
yeah,
How price change? To put it very simply, the more popular a player is, the likely that his price is going to increase. The less
yeah,
popular player. Okay, when we
correct.
say popular, right, that means not popularity over the whole season, but for that particular transfer period. If let's say it's hot property, like everyone is getting this player in, then chances are his price will rise. When it will rise, we don't know. It could be the first day after the end of the match day, game
Yeah.
week, second day, third day. We don't exactly know. But what you can do is you can follow us on our Telegram group, because that is where we usually discuss some of these potential price changes on a daily basis, especially for more popular assets, right? So now that we know that price changes works, how does this affect your transfer decision? Or
Okay,
like,
wait,
okay, before we go there, right, like, what does
you
it
go.
mean to your team, right? So when a player price increase, your team value increase. So basically your budget increase accordingly. But there's this thing that we need to note, okay? Let me go through the easy one first, right? So if your player loses value, and usually when they move, right, it's by zero point 0.1 of a million, right? 0.1 of a million. So if your player loses zero point 0.1 million, right? So you lose, your budget goes down by zero point 0.1 million. So, for example, you're 100 million, you made the wrong fodder option, like we mentioned, and then by game week 3, he's down to, let's say, 3.9 million because he's transferred out to another team entirely, right? And nobody saw that. Nobody saw that he's quite a popular one, and then his team he dropped by zero point 0.1 million. He's at 3.9 million. So when you transfer him out, you only have 3.9 million to buy your next player, right? So your whole
Yes.
team value drops down to
99.
99.9 million,
Correct.
right? But on the other hand, for if your player increases in price, right, you will only realize the profits or the earnings, right, by every zero point 0.2 million that they
Increase.
secure increase, right? So if they increase by zero point 0.1 million, the player value when you sell, you do not earn anything, right?
Yeah.
But if you increase by zero point 0.2 million, you get half of that, so you get zero point 0.1 million as your
Yeah.
profit. So let's say a player increase from 4 million to 4.2 million, that's a zero point 0.2 million increase. Then
Yeah.
your total budget will increase to 100.1 million, right?
Correct.
If you go to 103 million, zero point 0.3 million, right? 0.3
Mhm.
million, they round down again. You divide by 2, you round it down. So basically
Yep.
that's it. So just think of it like 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, you get half of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they
That's
just
quite okay
stingy
lah.
that way, lah. Yeah.
It's straightforward, I feel. But then, like, if you're casual like me, if when I first learned this, also, I was very late to fully understand. Only when I was properly engaged. But when you first learned this, bro, how when you were playing casually, right, back in the day, do you care about price changes? Like,
I mean, like even last season, I didn't really care about the price change.
no, like no. For example, I remember in my casual days, right. I was on my wildcard, right. I just kept transferring out rent a lot of times. Then I realized that I lose value because I
Yeah,
sub
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Correct,
You know what
correct,
I mean?
correct,
Like I
correct.
did too
Yeah.
many tinkers and I confirmed the transfer. Then I thought it doesn't matter, but it matters lah because team value you cannot just confirm the transfer. Yeah. So yeah, price changes is super annoying and team value is I would say is important lah. Like show move on to team value and the importance of team value. What do you think
Okay,
of
wait.
the importance?
Before that, like, okay, so I think it's. I mean, before we go even like importance of team value and all this, I think just to summarize, how price changes affect you, okay, is that if, for example, you are already planning to bring in a player, let's say you're planning to bring in, let's say Cole Palmer, like Cole Palmer was a hot asset last season. If you're already planning to bring him in this week and you delay your transfer till the last day of the game week, right?
Yep.
If let's say he was 5 million and everyone is getting him in, right? On the first day, he might increase to 5.1 million. And if you don't have the budget, you might not be able to afford him entirely.
Yes.
You get what I
Missing by
mean?
point one will be super
Uh,
annoying.
Missing by point one. So the timing of the transfer matters in that extent, especially if you are very tight on your budget
Yep.
and you want to bring a player in. So that's a decision that you have to make, whether to delay your transfers to the end and what are some of the potential price changes that you have. So that is the first, like, to me, as a casual, that's the most fundamental thing that you need to know about price changes.
Yep.
Second thing that you need to know is that, like what Lokman mentioned, your transfers, if you have 2 transfers, right, for that week, you might be affected if you, let's say, you transfer one out and then you transfer him again for another player.
Yep.
Okay, so
Okay.
hear me out. For example, you have 2 free transfers, and you thought that okay, let's say your son, you bought him at 9 million. He's currently at 9.6, right? And you want to cash out on him, and you get someone else. Let's say you use Son and you brought in Saka, for example, for 9 million, right? So 9 million, he increased to 9.6. You sold him at 9.3 million. You bought Saka for let's say 9.3 million, correct?
Yep.
And then you got news that Saka is injured,
Okay.
and you want to bring Son back in, right? Now you won't have the money to bring Son back in because you got 9.3 million, but Son is now 9.6 million, and you're
That's a good
short by
point.
zero point 0.3 million.
Yep. Good
Because it has
summarization.
happened to me. It has happened to me once or twice before.
Okay.
So just be very careful, especially like I mean you might be tempted to sell your players, especially with those who have risen in price by a lot. But just bear in mind that you sell them at half the profit, so you might have to buy them back at that differential.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Understood.
think that's another thing that you
Sorry.
just need to take note.
One more basic thing I think we didn't cover was if you have two free transfers, right? You can make one free transfer, and the following week you still have your two free transfers. So,
Yeah,
that's
you can
what's the
carry
term of
forward
that?
one basically.
Yeah, you can roll. It's considered roll also lah.
Yeah.
You make one and roll the other. Yeah, okay. Just something we didn't say earlier. Okay.
Right.
What's next?
So for this how and like what Lukman mentioned, so basically you're on your wild card, right? There's the same scenario. You're on wild card,
Yeah,
you got unlimited transfers, right? And then for
but
example you're tinkering, you got Cole Palmer who was at 5 million, now he's at 6 million. You sell him off for 5.5, and then you like trying to move your funds around, and then realize that I want Cole Palmer, you have to buy him back at 6 million. So you
yeah,
lost zero
point
point 0.5
five.
million just
Just like
from
that.
tinkering, which is a very significant amount of money, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll be then pissed, and then you'll be like, oh, I wish someone would have told me earlier, and that's because you didn't listen to FPL Copy Talks, FPL Playbook, right? So,
Okay.
let your friends know. This is how the price change affect you, lah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is just from a very like layman perspective. But there's also this thing called team value. So basically, your team value would determine how much funds you have, lah, right, to move around, right? And a higher team value, which would mean that you have more funds to move around, and a lower team value would means that you're probably restricted to the number of your budget, lah, basically. So the type of players that can get in and all that. So just to give some perspective, from 100 million, and if you catch some price rises and all this, you can actually come up to like 104, 105 million. I think that's a pretty decent team value. Would you say that? Have you seen anything higher
Yes.
than that?
I have seen higher than that, but 105 is pretty good already, but I've seen higher lah. But
Yeah,
105 is
I
pretty good,
mean
yes.
that's like an achievable target lah. I would say like
It
104,
is, it is.
105 million. It's
105.
a very achievable target.
Definitely.
It's not that it's a primary role because you don't get points for having good team value, but it's just that if you're conscious and conscientious about looking at team value, timing your transfers, then you benefit from that. And and if you don't, I think that even if you don't, but you play the game decently well, I think you probably won't go under 100 million lah. Right? Will you agree with
Yeah.
me on that one? As
Yeah, yeah.
long as you are active, you won't go under 100 million. I
100%,
think
yeah.
101, 102 would be considered low team value already. Right, so
Yes.
101, 102 million would be low team value, and just for some perspective, I was like around that range last season.
Yep.
So, so what is the importance of team value? A higher team value would allow you more options to move around, and that is obviously more beneficial in terms of your strategy planning and getting in the players. A lower team value just means that your pickings are from a smaller pool of players who are on the um probably cheaper side of the spectrum lah. So what's your thought?
Yeah.
How much importance do you put on team value, Lokman?
I would say it's important. Okay, I will use a poker analogy, okay? So, do you play poker, bro?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so,
I'm actually quite interested to. I'm running through my head now what which strategy you're referring to, but yeah,
no, no,
let's
no.
get to
Okay,
that.
basically, team value, right? Towards the latter stages of the season, right, it's akin to if you have high team value, right, it's the same thing as having a big stack in poker. If you have lesser team value is like same thing as having a small stack. So having a big stack, right, it gives you the power to be more aggressive. It gives you the power to have more options and you have more arsenal. There's more plays that you can do. But having a small stack, right, like same as a team value, you're kind of restricted. You have to play safe. You don't have any much options. You have to wait for the right time. And yeah, so I feel like having a big stack is always the best thing to have. So I feel the team value is important. It's one of the factors. I wouldn't say the most important thing, of course, but I think it plays a part. It definitely plays a part.
I don't 100% agree with Lukman. I think it's useful to have. I don't think it's highly important, like something you really need to sit down and say, okay, my team value is dropping. I need to fix this. Because at the end of the day, the way the game is set up, I mean, like, nobody looks at and say, oh, this guy has 106 million team value. No, nobody goes there. They just say, oh, this guy
Yeah,
is
yeah.
overall ranking top 10K, top 1K. All right, so that's all that matters. I do agree that with a higher budget, you have more pickings, but it also means that you can get lost in some of the decisions that you want to make, right? So whether you want to go Saka, Salah, like this kind of players, you have the budget, you could do it. You are less focused. Like you have more like 9 million options that you need to tinker with, and then you have that. I mean, it's a pros and cons lah. So you have that positive aspect, but at the same time, you the downside is that you probably will be a bit more confused on who you want to start, and you can be
Yep.
a bit less decisive. When it's lower, of course, you will always look at the other side of the grass as greener, wishing that you have more team value. But for someone who was tied by team value, I think you tend to be a bit more decisive because your pool becomes a bit smaller, although you can choose. And I mean, luck plays as well on your part, but I think I think where that goes is that it falls nicely. I mean, like the strategy is all about strategy, right? You have a higher team value. You can go like if you spoke about crafting an FPL squad, right? You can actually go more template and then get more template players in, and then probably slowly inch your way up. But with lower team value, I think you're
Your
probably
pool is
forcing
smaller.
yourself to play with some
Yeah.
differentials.
So
Let's put it that way.
our pod partner ABK, he's probably more on your side. He doesn't think team value is important. He used to say like, even if you can't afford player A, right? Let's say you want player A, he will always say there will be a better option which is cheaper. So he says, like, you know what
I
I
won't
mean,
say a
like
better option. There will be
blessing in disguise kind of
similar.
thing. Like a
Sim-
blessing in disguise. You
yeah,
can
I
choose
mean,
a
like
better player.
correct. I get what you mean.
Yeah,
But
that's
if
what
you
he
were to
says.
put it from perspective, right? Like I mean, like a perspective point of view. I won't say a better player or what lah. I mean, at the end of the day, your decision is constrained by how much value you
Yeah.
have, and you want to maximize your value, right?
Yeah. So
So
my argument against that, right, is it's not every season that you get a Palmer who's 5 million, who started at 5 million. Not every season you get a 5 million striker in Mateta scoring hat tricks and stuff. So that's my argument behind like how a team value could come in handy like in the later part. So I would
yeah,
say it's
yeah,
pretty important.
it's true, it's true. I mean, it's an enabler lah. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but like if you're new to the game, or you've been playing this, or this is your first time going in serious, I think the only thing that you need to worry about is if you want to make a transfer, right? And you are clear about the transfer, just follow the news on potential price rise and make a decision before that 9:30 a.m.
Correct.
So that's just the simple conscientious effort that you can make lah. Don't have to
Yeah,
like,
but
oh yeah.
take note, like if they got Champions League, let's say Monday night they playing Champions League on Tuesday, Wednesday. If you can swallow that price rise, I
I
would
mean, don't get
lean.
too technical into it.
Okay.
At the end of the
Okay.
day, there's some strategy into that. If you want to know
Okay.
more, like about what are some of those strategies, I think just follow us on our Telegram group. We will discuss a bit more. But I mean, for a very casual perspective, if you don't want to bombard yourself like with too much like technicalities on how to play this game, my
Yep.
suggestion is just if you already know you want to transfer this player in, and you get news or win that he might increase in price, and your date certain, just go in with that, right?
Yeah, I agree.
That's one.
Like for example,
Second thing is, don't just sell players that you might want
yeah.
to get back. Think of that
Okay.
consciously.
Also, if you're casual, like you want to get get it done with for the week For example, if you think you're busy on Friday or
Yeah,
Saturday, that's one more factor
correct,
to
correct.
do.
So, like
Okay.
example, I'm just giving you an example. Another thing is that let's say the player is out on suspension, like 3 game suspension, right? And let's say
Yeah.
he's a player who has increased in value a lot. All right. So, for example, let's say you bought Cole Palmer at 5 million and now he's at 6 million, right? And he's on a
Okay.
3 match suspension, right? So,
Yeah.
um, the decision to sell him or not and get a 0.5 million, you might want to consider just putting him on the bench because after the 3 game suspension, if you're getting him back, it's more expensive for you. That means you lose
Correct.
that 0.5 million. That means you finalize that 0.5 million.
Correct.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Anything else about team value?
No. Let's
I
move on.
think just don't have to like monitor this too closely. Like occasionally, every maybe like 3-4 games, just get a quick view on where you're standing, and then
I
I
would
mean like
say
you monitor it, but you don't like
yeah, I know.
try to
For
catch on the
me,
team value.
like Monday morning, right? If you know what transfers you want to make, right? So just if you think that player will be out, might be out of reach, you just check on that player. Like if you don't have any transfers plan, right? Then no need to check lah. Just chill. That will be my advice lah.
Yeah,
If you
correct.
think I need to get this player on a Monday morning or like Sunday night, this guy Hall and you want him, right? You will think that it's difficult to get him if his price and all. Then maybe you can monitor him. Other than that, you got no transfers plan, right? Just stay away lah for your mental health also lah, and for your life Like,
Yeah.
just chill. Okay,
So
move on.
yeah, so not the importance there depends on
The player that
how deep you want to go into this game. I mean,
yeah,
this is just another element in the depths of the game. But personally, for me, no, I don't.
cause circle line no reception
No, no, not that. But just basically, uh, just check when there's some noise. Yeah, you get what I mean.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now we talk about team value. I think the next thing that we want to ask ourselves is so sometimes you feel like one free transfer is very limited. Even 2, 3 transfers can be challenging, and we don't have that many options to reset or refresh our squad. Right? You only got 2 wildcards throughout the whole season. One available in the first half of the season, one available in the second half of the season, and if you got one free hit, we talk about all these cheap transfers, cheap strategies in the next episode. But if you need more than one transfer, you can still do it. But of course, with a penalty of -4. So I think this is where Lokman and I have a lot of opposing opinions on when to take a hit. But you wanna start with your considerations first, Lokman?
So taking hits. So I'm pretty liberal on hits. I feel like if the hit, for example, the number one thing, right? If it's a long term hit, right? Sorry, it's a long term thing. For example, player A, I want to sell him because he have bad fixtures. Like let's say the next 4 is bad, and then I bring in a player B whose next 4 fixtures is good. So let's say if I think that player B will outscore player A by 4 points in the next 4 games, I will easily take the hit lah. So that's one reason of taking hit. Secondly, this is also why I think hits is fine. That's the one scenario where I think hits is fine. Of course, suspension, injuries, I think is fine also. And also one more thing is one important factor, right, is price changes because we're talking about price changes, right? So for example, right, if you want to buy a player and you want to sell a player, let's say that guy you're selling, right, is going to drop in price and the guy you're buying, that is a 0.2 difference already. So if it's a 0.2 and if it's a long term transfer, right, I will comfortably take a hit also. And also I might make the transfer earlier. I know we didn't talk about the timing of the transfer. I mean, we said just make the transfer early, right? But one of the reasons to make a transfer early, even though there's Champions League midweek or what, if it's a price rise situation, like one drop, one up, right, I will make the transfer early and I might also take a hit. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, so generally for me, taking a hit is my last option. So I feel that any penalty on my points, I need to be very careful about it. I think okay. So the way where we differ in view is that Loman sees this as a potential for additional point, right? But for
Yeah.
me, I view it in a way where when you take a hit, you confirm your point deduction, right?
Okay.
So like you are spending to get potential gains or loss. So it's like a bet, in my opinion. Right?
Okay.
So whenever you take a hit, whether it's for a long term 4-game hit or what, you've taken a hit, you've taken that -4. Right?
Okay.
That fact won't change, whether it's over a 1-game period, 2-game period, 4-game period, because you never know if the player gets injured the third game or what. You already took the hit. Right? So for me, how I will only take hits if I feel that I absolutely need to, and when that absolutely needs to really depends on the circumstances and the situation. So generally, I would take a hit if I have, let's say, at least 3 injured players. That means no one on the bench, right?
Okay.
And then and the 3 injured players come from my first 11, right? And then my fodder, I have one non-playing fodder. So I
Okay.
want to fill at least 11 players who can play. I think that's the only time I would
3
take a
years.
hit.
So 2.
Yeah.
So you
No,
just let
so
the 2
so
fathers
I'm
play.
saying that let's say okay, so like my strategy has always been very focused, right, on the first 11. Okay. So my 3 bench fodders might come to a situation where one of the fodder doesn't really play at all, not even a starting option or substitute option.
Okay.
So
Then the other 2 plays.
effectively
Let's say
I've
2 play.
got the other 2. So if let's say I've got
Yeah.
3 injuries, right, and I can only have potentially 10 players playing, then I will take a hit.
Okay.
You get what I mean?
So you are not okay, but okay, how about the team value consideration? If the guy is
I
dropping in
told
price.
you that is the lowest of my priority. Team value has been the lowest of my priority.
Okay.
I wouldn't take a hit for team value
Okay.
because I feel
That's
that
right.
like what Lokman says that I want to get this player for this player, right? Like I
Yeah.
think being too fixated and that one transfer, I generally want to keep that flexibility because it doesn't guarantee you any points. It just means that you think this player is gonna do something. But for you to take
Okay.
hit, you are already not only how to say that one, you are double downing on a bet, right, on a prediction.
Okay. But what
You
if
get what I
the
mean?
you're talking about 3 players, let's say 2 players injured. So you won't really transfer that
No,
one
so okay. So
injured
the first
player for a
consideration is
hit
I want to have at least
11
I
players.
want to have 11 players who can start. Right.
Okay. So
So
you
the
will
moment I don't have the 11 players, I will consider taking a hit. Okay,
so let's
that's
say you
one.
make after one free transfer you got 10 players, you will consider taking a hit to fill
Correct.
11.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. That's the number one thing. So the second thing that I take a hit. No. So even if that scenario happens and the player that is not playing is a defender or a goalkeeper, I
You
will
might not.
not take a hit. Okay. And
Okay.
why I would
Okay.
not take a hit is because I'm taking this from a very 1 game week perspective. Right. My hits are a very 1 game week perspective. I don't see them longer than a game week. You can say they average out over 2 games, 3 games, whatever. I don't see it that way.
Why not?
Because yeah, because like I mentioned, you don't know beyond that 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but you know for certain this 1 week what's going to happen. You need to fix it for that particular week.
Okay. That's fair.
Okay,
But
I mean, like you say, okay, this player can return over the next 4 weeks, like definitely -4.
yeah.
But that's the strong assumption that he's fit for the next 4 games.
But the player, if you're the player you're taking out, let's say he definitely misses the next 4 games.
No, so it depends on like if I can withhold him for 1 week, then I won't take the hit,
Then you,
because I got 11 other players who can perform. I mean, not as good, but I wouldn't take the hit.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll give you this scenario. So let's say your 8 million midfielder is
Mm-hmm.
injured.
Yeah.
Okay. And you want to fill him 11, right? I think you won't take, will you sell him for another 8 million midfielder, for example? Or will you take a hit to play a
No. So I would sell him to take another player lah.
no, but if your 4 million defender can come on for him already, and you
No, if I need to take hit, I wouldn't take a hit on that one. I would just let the 4 million defender come
so
in.
you will sacrifice that 1 week
Yeah.
points.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, like generally lah. I mean, it won't. I mean, there's one
Understand.
free transfer. I mean, I could have used that free transfer on this 8 million player,
Yeah.
and then
I
I
think the
would
only
have
time you will take a hit in that situation if the player you want to buy is on hot form, maybe you might take a hit lah. Like if a template who is hauling, you probably take a hit, right?
probably not also lah. I based on this, I probably not. I haven't. I don't think I have. I haven't.
I think you have no. I think one time you took a hit unexpectedly. I think that's I forgot what
But
player.
that's because my team structure was so poor. Like it was so bad that I had a lot, some like 3 players injured,
Yeah. Okay.
and then
Okay.
and all this. So it's always been that, fundamentally that, right? So I take hits from a weekly perspective. That means how I need to move this week, because I don't like beyond that 4 weeks, right? Like, okay, so like you say, right, this player. Okay, my point here is that you said that this player, player A, can return over the next 4 game weeks more than -4 than player B, correct?
Correct.
That -4 can come in terms of like 1 point more in the 4 weeks, or it could come all in 1 week.
Okay.
Okay, so if I
Yeah.
had delayed that transfer by 1 week, I wouldn't have to take the hit this week if the haul is on the following week.
Okay. That's fair.
You get what I mean? I mean that's how I see it lah. I
Okay.
don't
Okay. That's
see that. I'm
okay.
not too liberal on that side.
So one more thing why I like to take hits also. I'm more liberal. Right? It's also the enjoyment factor of FPL, right? So it happens. Like, you play to enjoy the game, right? If you're a casual, especially like for example, if you rather play a 4 million defender, like it's boring, like it's boring. It's safe and boring, right? So the enjoyment factor also comes in FPL, especially
I don't see how you're
how
enjoying if
if
you
you buy
borrow a
something.
player and he's zero,
Yeah,
and
lah, I
then
know.
you're like a
Yeah,
-4.
no, as in you sell 8 million. It's more exciting to get somebody who has more potential. I know it might not work out. Of course, might not work out. But the fact that it's more exciting. Let's say you're watching a game, it's more exciting. Right? There's enjoyment factor. That's one factor that one of the reasons why I'm
No,
also
no,
more.
that's just I don't know, not for me. Maybe for you, you find that enjoying, but for me, it's
Yeah.
just like you're at the poker table. You lost your last 3 games. You're not thinking straight, and then you're just betting in again on a -4, and then finding enjoyment out. That's why
On
that's why.
tilt, ah. You
Huh?
think it's a tilt? You're on tilt, ah. You
Yeah,
think
you're
that?
on tilt. You're like, okay, never mind. This next one, I'm gonna return.
Mm,
So you take here that one, and then you can very quickly, especially if you're casual, very quickly eat up into your points. So I mean,
okay.
like, okay, why I'm saying this is, uh, prior to last season, there were a couple of seasons where I took hits quite liberally. Then I fell out of love of the game quite quickly, because I realized that like it's
Your
a
hits didn't
very
work out.
easy go-to option to do it, but overall your points just take a hit lah, basically. So even if you had a very good game week, later on in the later stages, you realize that each marginal point actually matters a lot. So, which is why I wouldn't take
Okay.
a hit. You get me?
Let's move on to the last
Yeah, it's quite
discussion
a lot.
point.
Yeah, it's quite. I mean, just one more thing here. Like, for example, right? To me, a last point of view, why I would not take hit for a defender or a goalkeeper, or even if like the player comes on as a substitute, at least he got some point potential, right? A 0 is still better than a -4, right? So I'm on the safe
Okay.
side. Like you can say, okay, he potential to get 4 points or 6 points or whatever. But what's for sure
Okay.
is that the baseline is 0, right? So
So basically,
the
you're not
potential
gambling,
there,
lah.
huh?
You
No,
just
I'm
like
gambling, but like the potential
no,
there
in
builds
a
up.
way for poker, right, you're just folding the hand. You're not playing the hand.
Correct, correct.
In a way.
Unless I'm having like 3 aces in my hands, then I will play lah. So where it goes is that if you're looking, the only and this is usually only in midfields and forwards where I will have that kind of I
Okay.
think I learned my lesson. That's where I will probably have a bit more faith
Okay.
in point
I think we
returns.
cover
Yeah,
it now. I got one more point, but I think let's move on.
which is what, just
So
just go through it, man.
that's it. So like, how about what's your take on taking a hit to enable So for example, you want to get Salah, right? You need to take a hit to sell like somebody to a fodder. Does that make it better or worse or nothing? Or still same lah, same thing lah.
Same argument. Like
Yeah,
you
same lah, same.
buying something, like you taking a credit loan to buy something you you can afford, right? I mean, that's
Okay.
basically it.
All
Just
but
work with your
FPL the
budget.
price changes. There's no interest so.
Yeah, there's no interest, but there's a huge penalty on every point, every million you gain. Anyway, yeah, I think we covered a lot. I think this is one of the more heated debates, lah. But
Yeah.
every week you will hear our decision. I might change my perspective. I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
maybe too conservative now. I might be a bit more liberal if I see the light at the end of the tunnel. But that's where I
No,
stand
you should
here
stick
now
to your
lah.
principle. Lah.
Yeah, if I
There's
stick to my
different,
principle.
there's more than one style to play the game. Lah. I think both
Correct,
are valid.
exactly.
Lah. Yeah, both is
Exactly.
valid. Lah.
So again,
And
like I mentioned, or we mentioned continuously, here at FPL Copy Talks, we're not here to tell you what is the strategy to play. We're here to
yeah.
discuss what are some of the strategies we have so that you can build your own one and then probably share with us some of your experiences, and then we grow together as a community.
Okay,
Now the last
last
discussion
discussion.
that we want to have is, I think this is more up Lukman's alley. How far ahead should you plan your transfers?
What you start first? I want to know also actually. How far ahead do you plan your transfers? Roughly.
Honestly, the only time I plan my transfers
How many games? How many game
is
weeks in advance? Roughly.
generally if there are cup ties, like international games, and injuries. I just deal with it
So you don't
on a
plan
week
ahead,
by
lah.
week basis.
So
I
you
don't.
need.
So okay, so I do plan a little ahead. Like for example, like depending on the fixtures, I do plan like, okay, I want this player in for like 3 or 4 games, and then after I need to deal with him after this. So I need him like after this game week, I need to bring him out. But I don't plan like, okay, these are my transfers for next week. These are my transfers for the following week. Maybe towards the tail end of the season, yes. But generally throughout the entire season, I think
Okay.
I just deal with the team as it comes
There's a
by.
lot of work also lah to plan. Honestly, okay, for me personally, I love to plan. I like to kind of like know the lay of the land. Lah. So for example, I would say 8 to 10 weeks ahead, I will know my transfers. So maybe
Yeah.
like last season, right, Game Week 29, for example, I will know what transfer I'm making in Game Week 38. Lah. So every game week, right, I will just make a rough transfer plan based on fixtures. So I remember free hit 29, right? My game week 30 team, right? I would know what transfer I was going to make. I would actually last year, I know my wildcard draft already, essentially in game week 35. So from there already I know what I'm doing in game week 30. So it's just a rough gauge. So I like to plan. I kind of enjoy the process, even though sometimes it will take a lot of time because I have to do it fixtures.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about this? Break us down step by step how you plan your
So
transfer. So,
basically,
okay, we start with game week one first.
fi-
I think that's where
yeah.
everyone is starting, right?
So
So,
game week 1, right? I will plan my transfer take around game week 8.
yeah, how do you do
So
it?
fixtures. So I'll make my
Yeah,
draft. So I'll look at fixtures. Fixtures is important. We'll cover fixtures by the way on our last
correct.
episode. So for example, uh Arsenal have good fixtures from game week 1 to 4. So in game week 5, my plan is to transfer an Arsenal player out if their fixture turn. So it's
Mm.
all about fixtures. So you have to look at the fixture, how the fixture turn. Like roughly, for example, Chelsea run of good fixtures is good, right? So I'll just earmark player A to a Chelsea player. Like I don't know who yet. Maybe in game week 7, right? I'll just earmark a Chelsea midfielder if I don't know who. If there are more than one options. Like for example, West Ham, I earmark either Bowen or Paqueta or Kudos. I just earmark the teams for if it's a game week one thing lah. But when the later on in the season, right, I will probably plan out quite far ahead. And I always want to say on the pod my plans. You know when we talk about teams at the end. But I feel like
Yeah,
it's useless
yeah.
to tell. I feel like it's because it's too long, right? We really gone so long, right? But technically, I could say my plan like quite far ahead, lah. I have
You
it
can always
in
you
my
can
mind.
always do up short reels on that one. I think people will listen to you. You don't have to say on the pod. You can share it on your. You can actually do a real segment
Idea.
on my ten game week reel for every week that you do and how things change. It's
Idea.
interesting idea.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, like okay, so I find that planning too far. I mean, Lokman loves to plan. I find that planning too far ahead is very consuming for me.
Yep. It is
It
time
it
consuming.
it it.
You
I
need to
mean, like,
enjoy it, lah.
yeah, you need to enjoy it, but I feel that there's too many permutations. Right, it's just too many permutation that could
Yep.
happen. There are ideal plans that you want to do, and the thing about the plan is that you need to review it weekly, so that becomes a bit more of a challenge, and
Yep.
again, and then you need luck on your side as well, lah. So, like, just to share a little bit, right? So, last season I went in quite heavy on players who were going to Asian and African Cup because they were in a hot streak of form, right? And I had plans to phase them out on the team before they go for their international friendlies. Sorry, the international tournament. But my plan was nice on paper, right? Like by this
What's the
game
plan?
week, I will have 2 transfers to bring out
Oh,
Kudus, Salah. This game week I'm gonna bring out Sun, and then I will have
Why
like
didn't it work?
because of injuries to everyone else in the team.
Yeah, injuries.
Yeah, injuries and suspension. So initially it was okay. So this is when I was gonna take another hit lah. So basically, I was gonna roll my transfer until the end of the game week where they played, and then the following week I will have three players to deal with, which was Sun, Kudus, and Salah, and I would have two free transfer, and I would take a hit because they'll be out for close to a month to 2 months, right? 4 to 8 game weeks, 4 to 6 game weeks. So I think
Yep.
that's another point where I would take a transfer because they are all premium assets, right? They are all my starting 11, they are all my big hitters. I would take the hit then. But then because of what happened, like I've got injuries to many different players. I'm forced to deal with it lah. So basically, I had certain weeks where I had just Salah going down in value on my bench because I couldn't deal with him. Same for Kudus and Sun. So that's where my team value actually got affected. But that being said, there is certainly value in what Lukman mentioned about planning your transfers ahead, because when you plan your transfers ahead, I think you basically are more aware of how your team is going to shape up moving forward,
Yeah, so I want to
right?
say personally, right, why I plan ahead, right? For example, in game week 8, I'm planning to buy player A from a team, right? So from game week, that's my plan in game week 8. So by game week 4, I can start like closely monitor the team. I watch the team, I watch the player already. So like in my mind, okay, if this guy will be worth it in game week or not. So my scouting starts earlier because I know they have a good fixture term, for example, from game week. So that's how I think that my planning comes in handy lah. I can, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. For example,
fantasy scout.
shout out sponsor
But
us
anyway,
if you're listening.
yeah. Okay. So that's a very. I personally I don't do that lah. So basically, I
Mm,
don't scout players. I don't say okay we did this. But where I would probably work on planning is to look at the fixtures and see where I shape up every week, like maybe 3 or 4 game weeks ahead. Right? Because you got your transfers, you want to decide whether a transfer is worth it or to roll it. I think I think a shorter time frame of 3 to 4 game week is more than
more
sufficient.
doable. More doable.
More
So
doable and more than sufficient. So basically just to see if because each time you're taking okay, for me it's always good to have two free transfers on hand, right?
yep.
And if there's no urgent need to make a transfer, like unless there's injury, I would always prefer to roll my transfer, right? So the other decision is that okay, if let's say I feel that this player is hot form and my player is let's say mid form, right? And I only have one transfer. Whether I want to transfer to that player, I think that's when I will probably look 4 games ahead and see whether I would potentially need to keep my transfer for that in any of the next
Yeah.
3 games.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's the only time I would plan ahead lah in that sense.
I got it.
Right, otherwise I think yeah, I probably wouldn't go up to like 8, 10 game weeks ahead because too many permutations, too many things can change, form can change. You might be focusing on one player. Okay, so just a quick one, right? Like I think that's where you lost out on Palmer. You brought in Foden, that kind of things because you were planning too far ahead last
Yeah,
season.
correct.
Will you agree with me?
Yeah, so the downside of planning ahead is not being flexible. You're like,
No, not say
I
not
have
being
something.
flexible. You are setting up boundaries for yourself, artificial boundaries for
Yeah.
yourself based
Actually,
on
the Palmer issue last season was because I didn't want to take hit. Even though I'm quite liberal on it. But
yeah. But also you didn't
yeah,
have him because of like the whole fixture thing. You think Chelsea game not too good,
eh,
etc. Another team game, and then like
that's
you just
initially
wanna
lah.
keep.
But after that, I wanted him. But the reason
Correct,
why I didn't
correct,
get him
correct.
was,
But
because of
because
the
you were
hit lah.
already
But anyway,
constrained by certain boundaries that you
yeah,
set
yeah.
yourself based on assumption that you make on the fixture difficulty. So it's a lot of variables that you set on yourself.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's a good point.
Yeah. So,
Like
but
that's why I don't. That's why I don't like to. I just do it like on my own time. But you know what I mean. Like if 8 to 10 games is definitely too far because there's a lot like Chelsea
yeah.
could be good in game week 1, but in game week 8 they could be rubbish. Yeah, that's for sure.
But that being said, I
Yeah,
really appreciate Lukman's view because there are
yeah,
certain things that you tend to overlook. For example, I mean there are fewer double game weeks, blank game weeks next season potentially.
Yeah,
But
sadly for me.
I mean, we can look at fixtures like further ahead, like a run of fixtures. You probably will have a stronger sense of when it's coming, when the storm's brewing.
Yeah,
Yep.
can. Should we wrap it up? I think this has been a pretty interesting conversation, bro.
Yeah, it is. I mean, okay. So the reason why I think we probably delve quite a bit into it is because this is part of strategy, and I think different people have different opinions or views
Yeah.
on how you want to approach a strategy. It could be as easy as how to say. I mean, I won't say easy. I can be easy as I prefer A over B. But it could be as complex as looking at your own risk appetite, risk profile, how you manage what you deem as enjoyment, and how deeply committed or involved you want to be in your decision making. So yeah, strategy can really really vary. I hope that by listening to this, you have a better insight of what goes through our brain when we make these decisions. You might agree with me, you might agree with Lokman, you might disagree with some of the things we say. uh,
Yep.
it's perfectly fine. If you have any other strategies that you have and you want to share with us, don't forget to leave it in the comments below. Whether you're listening to YouTube or on Spotify or anything, just leave a comment so we can take the discussion further when we delve into this topic during the weekly podcast that we have. Yep.
Yep. I think that's it. I think this wraps up today's episode of Mastering Transfers. We hope you enjoyed it. Our next episode will be about chips. So we talk about all the 4 chips that we have. We
Yeah.
appreciate your support. Do give us a like, subscribe, and share. If you like this podcast, do comment, do share, and yeah.
Yep, and because we mentioned earlier, this is strategy, and strategies can be very different from different people. One of the reasons how I got more involved in FPL was because I found a wonderful community within this FPL Copy Talks community. You can join us on our Telegram group. You can search FPL Copy Talks. We add the links to this description, and there you can see what other people's strategy are, different angles to approach different things, and we can keep this conversation going because strategies are always constantly evolving, changing, and depending on the permutations that you have in terms of the fixtures, it's always a fun one to dabble in. Yep. With that being said, I think that's the end of Mastering Transfers. I'm Anwar, the FPL Casual. Thank you for listening to us.
And I'm Lukman, the sensible one. We are FPL Copy Talk signing out.
You're listening to FPL Copy Talks. Right here. Right now.